The Dragonback series by Timothy Zahn. Book 2, Dragon and Soldier. Chapter 26. Jack put the links down between the burning hut and the squad's chosen flying turtle. "Johnny!" he shouted through the open hatchway before stepping into view. "It's Jack Montana! Don't shoot!" "Okay," Johnny called back. "Come on!" Jack hopped down from the door. "Everyone okay?" he called as he hurried toward them. "So far," Johnny grunted. "Though if Kana can't get this thing started, that could change real fast." "I told him it was you," Rogan piped up. The smaller boy was shaking where he lay, but he held his gun bravely at the ready. "I told him. He didn't believe me." Don't worry. I wouldn't have believed you either," Jack said, jerking his head back toward his transport. "Come on. Everybody get aboard and let's get out of here." "We won't get far in that one," Lee warned. She gestured over Jack's shoulder with the muzzle of her gompers. "They got your tanks." Jack turned and looked. Sure enough, there was a ragged gash in the side of the transport that was leaking fuel like a miniature waterfall. "We'll have to take yours then," he said. "You said Allison's in there?" "Yeah," Johnny said, glancing around. "She said she could get it started." "I'll give her a hand," Jack said, slinging his MP50 over his shoulder. "Keep a sharp eye. When the Shamshir ran off, I don't think they were really giving up." He found Allison in the pilot's seat, muttering darkly at the control board. "How's it going?" Jack asked, coming up beside her. "It's frozen solid," she growled, throwing him a curious look. "So you came back, huh?" "That's the rumor, anyway," Jack said, leaning over her shoulder to try a couple of keys. It was frozen all right. "What have you tried?" "What, are you an expert on computer systems?" "On breaking into them, yes," Jack shot back, trying to think. The good news was that the computer setup was probably similar to the Edge system he'd successfully hacked into on the leaking shuttle out there. The bad news was that with whatever Allison had done to it, she'd probably locked it down so tight that his sewer rat trick wouldn't work, which left them only one option. "We need the start key," he told her, turning and heading aft. "There ought to be a copy on one of the computers in the Shamshir HQ. I'll go get it." She was at his side before he even got to the hatchway. "I'll go with you," she said, snatching up a machine gun from the floor. "Forget it," he said, throwing her an annoyed glare. There was a fair chance there was still some soldiers lurking in the building, and the last thing he wanted was for it to have Dracos' freedom of action cramped by the presence of an unwelcome witness. "Stay here and what?" She cut him off. "It won't start. Anyway, two soldiers together always have a better chance than one." Jack grimaced. That was probably true, except when one of them had a Kada warrior on his back. They made it to the HQ building's outer door without anyone shooting at them. The distant mud hut, Jack noted uneasily, seemed to be burning even more furiously than it had been when he'd first landed. He wondered what the blast range was on the grenades Dracos had spotted in there. "I'll go first," Allison said. Without waiting for argument, she ducked inside. Setting his teeth firmly together, Jack followed. No one shot at them in here either. In fact, for all they could tell, the whole place was indeed deserted. "I don't like this," Jack muttered as they eased along the darkened corridor. "They shouldn't all have run, should they?" "Depends on what they're running from," Allison said. "Or maybe what they're running to." "Meaning?" "Meaning maybe they're afraid of something in that shed you torched," she said, peering around an open doorway and then moving on. "Or maybe they just decided on a tactical retreat. Like I said." "Meaning?" Jack repeated, starting to feel annoyed again. This wasn't any time to be playing word games. "Meaning maybe they didn't feel like facing a bunch of edge combat transports all alone," she said, glancing over her shoulder. "There are more transports on the way, aren't there?" Jack shook his head. "Sorry." Allison's forehead creased, but she merely turned back and continued on. "Well, the Shamshir don't know that," she pointed out. "I just hope they don't have any air power of their own on the way, though they probably do." She paused at another doorway and looked in. "Here we go," she said, and went inside. The room was small and bare of any ornaments, Jack noted as he slipped in behind her. From the size of the desk and the amount of padding on the chair, it looked like they'd found the commanding officer's office. with a nice little computer humming away on a corner of the desk. Allison made a beeline for the computer. Jack brushed past her elbow and got there first. He said firmly, setting his gun down on the desk and dropping into the chair. You already messed up the transport's computer. This one's mine. She made as if to object, hesitated, then nodded. Fine, she said, going back to the doorway and peering cautiously down the hall with her machine gun ready. You just better know what you're doing. Trust me, Jack said, testing the keys. The computer was still running, but the owner had remembered to lock it down before making his tactical retreat. Sewer rat time. It'll take a few minutes, he added, keying in the program. Not too many, I hope, she said. So if you aren't leading a charge, what are you doing here? I came to get you guys out, Jack said. Or are you going to tell me you didn't need any help? I never turn down free help, she told him tightly. Especially right now. If we can't get that transport started, it's going to be a long walk to anywhere. With unhappy Shamshir behind us the whole way, Jack agreed. Boy, I'd hate to be in our shoes. How'd you get out, anyway? There was just the slightest pause. The hut they put me in had a dirt floor, she said. They'd fastened the other end of my handcuffs to the leg of one of the shelves. Same thing they did to me, Jack said. Not very imaginative, are they? Hey, whatever works, she said with a shrug. Anyway, all I had to do was dig enough dirt out from under the leg, and I could slip the handcuff right off. Nice and neat. Yeah, Jack said, frowning. Nice and neat, all right. Except that when they'd locked him up, they'd made sure the handcuff was attached above the bottom shelf. How had she managed to get that shelf unfastened? And then you just went around and popped the others? More or less, she said. How about you? I noticed you even managed to get yourself a transport. Jack snorted gently. I have friends. She frowned across the room at him. And? That's all, he said. I have friends. What sort of friends does an edgeman have in a Shamshir camp? You'd be surprised, Jack said. The computer was coming loose now, and he keyed for a directory. Anyway, you've got as good a chance of finding friends here right now as you do in the Wynyard's Edge. Meaning? Meaning it turns out our group was thrown to the wolves. He looked up and caught her eyes in a hard stare. Thanks to you and your little midnight visit to the Edge HQ back on Carrion. Her lip twitched. So they knew about that. Not only did they know about it, they decided to fry your whole circle of friends along with you, Jack told her. What were you doing there that night anyway? Looking for some information. What kind? The kind that's none of your business, she said tartly. Aren't you supposed to be breaking into a computer or something? Patience, dear, patience, Jack said. Scrolling down the pilot aircraft listing, he found the flying turtle section. The computerized start key. There it was. Here we go, he said, grabbing a data tube from a stack beside the computer and popping it in. He keyed for copy, then there was a brief hum, and the data tube popped back out. Got it, he announced, standing up. And then, even as he started toward Allison, a strange thought suddenly struck him. He stopped, his eyes flicking back to the computer. What's wrong? Allison asked. Nothing, Jack said, flipping the tube to her. Go get it started. I'll be right there. She caught the tube, her expression suddenly wary. What kind of heroics are you thinking about now? The kind that are none of your business, he said. Go on, get out. The air support could be here at any time. Allison's mouth compressed tightly, but she nodded. Don't take too long, she warned, and vanished down the hall. Jack! Dracos murmured from Jack's shoulder. What are you doing? Completing my primary mission, as you warrior types would say, Jack said, sitting back down at the computer. Or did you forget why we came here in the first place? The dragon's head rose up out of his jacket. The Gin 90 information! Why not? Jack said, keen for a new directory. Unless you're finicky about which mercenary group we get it from. I do not know that word! With a bound, the dragon leaped from Jack's back, landing halfway to the door. But the meaning is clear! I will stand guard! Good idea, Jack said absently, his full attention on the screen. Okay, there was the Shamshir's own records. Where were the ones they kept on other groups? Surely they kept records on other groups. Jack! I'm hurrying, Jack growled. Finally, there it was. Now all he had to do was find the section on aircraft. Jack, we must go, Dracos insisted, his tone subtly urgent. We must go now! Jack looked up. The dragon was standing at the door, his tongue flicking in and out with the speed of a blackjack dealer throwing cards. What is it? He asked, reaching for his gun. The taste of death, Dracos said. Coming from the fire!